boss. Welcome to Miami.
Well, yes.
You've been here for a couple of days, but
I've been here for a couple of days, but back in the late 60s, this is where we shot Gentle Ben, which there's probably not too many people out there that are old enough to remember Gentle Ben, but that was a TV series that I did about a boy and a bear in the Florida Everglades. So we shot, I don't know, God, back in those days, you could live in Coral Gables in 20 minutes. You could drive for 20 minutes and be out in the middle of nowhere. So anyway, I love Miami and I love Florida. You know, it gets a little humid in the summertime, but that's okay. Everybody's sweating.
Yeah.
You know.
Absolutely. Yeah, the Florida humidity. Yeah, don't. That's one thing you guys out in Cali have over us. So, absolutely on that. What I'd love to do is, let's sort of go down some of the stuff that you've done that I really enjoyed, and you've just had the most wonderfully eclectic career. You've dipped into so many genres, and you've done so many wonderful projects that you've been a part of. And just right off the bat, I just want to thank you. I want to thank you for your talents and your professionalism and all these performances you brought to all these roles. You really have brought a lot of enjoyment and a lot of smiles to so many people, and thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome, Patty. Thank you, and thank fans. I learned a long time ago from my dad and my mom that it really is the fans that they're the ones that give you the career. Because if fans don't like you, the producers will catch wind of that and they will move on. And another thing that I learned from my mom and dad is you got to work hard. It's not easy being an actor. It looks really fun, and it is fun, but I'll let you in on a little secret. Just about anybody can be an actor at 8 o'clock in the morning. But can you put that same work ethic into your job at 7 o'clock at night after you've had 5 cups of bad coffee and, a couple of slices of pizza, and you're just, you got to be focused all day long, And that's something that I was blessed. Rance Howard and Gene Howard, my parents, and of course I have my brother Ron. I was able to always look up to him, and I was always able to kind of watch him as an example of what to do. They just gave me a good solid set of fundamentals, and I've just kept carrying through, and God gave me an interesting face, and my family gave me kind of a personality that has allowed me to entertain people, and I'm really grateful for that.
As are we. Yeah, absolutely. Go, yeah. So, you've told your origin story, and again, like your wonderful family, and again that Hollywood family, for lack of a better term. But
well, wait, Patty. Yeah, but my mom and dad were not Hollywood. My mom and dad were Oklahoma. And listen now, Ron and I wrote a book called The Boys, a memoir of Hollywood and family. We wrote it a few years ago, and it came out. HarperCollins published it, and it was a New York Times bestseller. And it really chronicled our lives as child, actors. Well, being Howard boys, that's why Mom coined me and Ron and Dad the Boys. And so that's how we got the title of the book. And it was just a matter of Mom and Dad, they grew up in the Depression, and they didn't want, my dad did not want to stay a farmer. He had dreams. He had dreams of being in show business. As my grandma used to call it, the show business. So you want to be in the show business, don't you? So my dad, when he was about 16 years old, he had the dream of riding his horse to Hollywood from Oklahoma and ride into Hollywood and ride down Hollywood Boulevard to show those Hollywood producers what a real cowboy was like. Well, he was really lucky because his mother and his guidance counselor in high school convinced him not to do that. He ended up going to the University of Oklahoma, where he met my mom, and they had the sparks flew. They had a romance, and within a year or two, they ended up traveling to New York City to make their mark in show business. And they were there for a while. My brother was born. And then in 1958, they made the journey from New York to Los Angeles because television was happening. That was, at first television was in New York. And then the Westerns and all the shows were happening in Los Angeles. And it was actually my dad's agent who said, Rance, you really need to go to L.A. It's the only agent I know. Tell your client to get out of town. But my dad put his family, I wasn't born yet, put his family in the car and drove to California, and sort of the rest is history. Ron got into the business working on the Andy Griffith Show. He started a little bit before the Andy Griffith Show, but he got in the Andy Griffith Show, and then I was 2 years old, and I had my first opportunity to act, and that was on an episode of the Andy Griffith Show. And I just, I don't remember any of this, but obviously I had an aptitude to do it. I was not gun-shy around the camera. I was relaxed. I wasn't one of these kids that would see the camera and stare at it, So I fell into it, and the business saw that I could do it, and with the help of my dad, I just continued to work. I worked in The Fugitive. I worked in Please Don't Eat the Daisies. I did a great episode of Bonanza when I was a real little kid, and then I got that part on Star Trek. I played Commander Baylock.
Welcome aboard.
Yes. Tranya, I hope you relish it as much as I.
What was that anyway? Do you remember?
Oh, of course I remember, Patty. It was pink grapefruit juice that was warm out of a tin can. And, I was the kind of kid that would negotiate with his parents as far as eating their green beans. I don't know if anybody else ever has this experience, but I was one of these kids that says, I'll eat 3 green beans if I can have dessert. So anyway, the idea of drinking pink grapefruit juice did not appeal to me. I remember on the set of Star Trek when I saw that the prop man had filled the carafe with pink grapefruit juice. I went to my dad and I go, Dad, can't they put apple juice in it or something? I mean, anything but pink grapefruit juice. And my dad had the prop man pour him a big water glass size glass of water. He drank it down, he drank down the pink grapefruit juice, and it's good. Now, you're going to drink it, Clint, and you're going to like it. So anyway, I did, if you watch that episode, the Corbomite Maneuver, if you see that episode when I first taste the Tranya, I barely take a sip. And that's not because it was liquor. It's because it was something that I just did not want to have. Tranya and Star Trek has been lovingly following me around for my entire career.
You have 1 minute.
You've seen that episode a time or two.
Oh, yeah.
Hold on, guys. Let me tell a little story. Back in about 1976, I had the opportunity to audition for a little movie called Star Wars. It was my brother had worked for George Lucas on American Graffiti. So the people that were making Star Wars knew who I was, and I was about the right age, young kid, still had hair. I looked, I don't know if I looked dashing, but I looked like I might be able to play the role of Luke Skywalker. So I got an audition, and I was excited. Here I was, a young man getting ready to be considered for an adult role in a movie. Now, nobody thought Star Wars was going to be what it was. But it was, for me, it was an opportunity for an adult role in a movie. So I studied the audition, and I studied the sides, and I went to 20th Century Fox. And I will never forget this. The waiting area was outside, and there was a couple of dozen actors. They were seeing everybody. This is before there was videotape. It was all, if they wanted to see you, you had to go down to 20th Century Fox and stand in line and have your audition. And I saw Mark Hamill. He was in that group. And the thing about, I knew Mark from other auditions. You got to understand, there's a lot of competition, And I guess you could say it's somewhat friendly. I mean, there's very few fistfights out in a waiting room of an audition. But I saw Mark Hamill. We had been competing before for other roles. And I don't know whether he was before me or after me. But anyway, it was my turn to go in. And they called me in. And I went into the room. And the first thing I saw was Francis Coppola to my left. Larger than life. I mean, Francis is a frigging, oh, man, what an aura he has. I mean, he really does. I've had a chance to spend a little time with him over the years, and what a sweet man, and he's smart, and his legacy is just, second to none. But he was there, and I was blown away, because it was after Godfather, and he's a big guy. He was good friends with George Lucas, and in fact, kind of George Lucas's mentor. So I saw him, and I looked over, and I saw there was a little guy that was a confidant and a right-hand man of George Lucas. His name was Gino Havens. And there was another guy there named Fred Roos, and he was a casting guy. And Fred had been a casting associate on the Andy Griffith Show. That's how far back Fred Roos went. And so I didn't see George. And there was a big chair, there was a big desk and a big leather chair behind, the desk. And it was turned around, so I couldn't see who was in that chair. But the chair spun around, and it was George. And he looked me right in the eye, and he went, "Commander Baylock, Corbomite maneuver." And in that moment, I thought to myself, George, get an effing life. Here I was, a young man trying to get an adult role. And he makes a recall to something I did when I was a baby. I mean, it completely threw me off. I mean, I obviously didn't get the role. Mark Hamill has been a fine Luke Skywalker over the years. They landed the right guy. But the audition, with him looking at me and saying, "Commander Baylock, Corbomite maneuver," tickled. It just screwed me up, And I never rejected Star Trek. I never was But it has taken me years to realize the power of television and the legacy that certain programs have. And, obviously George was a Trekkie. George, this is like in the 70s. There wasn't a lot of syndication back then. Star Trek hadn't been inundated with the public, but he was a fan. And there have been, literally thousands of people in my life that have come up to me with that look in their eye, connecting with me because I'd been in Star Trek. It was just another job for me. But I understand. Another program that rivals Star Trek is the Andy Griffith Show. The Andy Griffith Show was special. Now, I was a little guy. I had no memories of actually working on the show. But over the years, especially since I turned 50, and I started to realize the connection that show had with the audience, the enduring connection that it had with the audience, is, wow. And it's all about good writing. The right people were running the show, and they made sure they kept good quality. You could say the same thing about Star Trek. You could say the same thing about the Andy Griffith Show.
Lucas has said that while he was writing Star Wars, he would take 2 breaks a day. He would take a break for lunch, and his wife would make him a peanut butter and jelly with the crust peeled off.
Really?
Yes, really. And he would stop.
Did he watch the Andy Griffith Show too?
And he would stop at 4 o'clock to watch Star Trek.
Yeah.
So.
Well, listen. I've been very lucky. You got to understand. I'm an actor. I get a call from my agent. Or back then, it was my dad would get a call and say, "Your son has an audition at 3:45 down at Gower Studios or 20th Century Fox. Can you make it?" And my dad was always a dutiful father. He would always put us first, which is, his unselfishness is something that I carry with me my whole life. I wish I was a little bit more like my dad. And my dad would get us to the auditions and prepare us. Both Ron and I, as juvenile actors, always felt like we were the most prepared people on the set. I always did. I knew what I was supposed to do. I knew my business. It's never about. It's not about learning dialogue. It's not about memorizing. It's about understanding what we're doing. You know, we're playing this game. We're playing this make-believe game where you got to get in a zone and kind of put yourself in a position where you are delivering a character that the director, who is the boss, the director is going to appreciate. And I guess I've had that knack, you know, and I'm grateful because it's been, listen, guys, it's in a couple of months, it will be 63 years that I've been a professional actor. My first day of employment was sometime in the early part of December of 1961. So it's been a while.
Real quick before I jump on in there, I'd love to just sort of go down some of the stuff that you've done that I've really enjoyed. And I don't think you've been probably asked this one too much, but any memories from your episode of Dr. Shrinker?
Yeah. Yes, I do have a memory of Dr. Shrinker. I was driving at the time. I had turned 16 years old, and my choice of a first car was an AMC Pacer. What an idiot. My God, Clint, an AMC Pacer. I thought it was cool, you know, and it wasn't cool. It was friggin' hot with all those windows. The thing was like, you know, a fishbowl in the desert. But anyway, I was driving. By that point, I was driving myself to and from location. Or it wasn't a location. We were shooting at some soundstage down in Hollywood. And I got a flat, and I was in my Dr. Shrinker outfit, which was like a Jungle Boy, you know, and I was driving back from lunch because I went home to Burbank, and I was driving back, and I got a flat tire. And here I was on the Hollywood freeway with a flat tire and this like caveman Jungle Boy outfit changing a tire. That's my memory of working on Dr. Shrinker.
And it was part of the Croft Super Show. It was a cavalcade of live action stuff shown on Saturday mornings, Electro Man and Dinah Girl, stuff like that. Dr. Shrinker was a mad scientist who had a shrink ray. People crashed the island. He shrunk them down, and they were trying to get back in the lab and grow back to normal size. Then they come across him, who's been living in the jungle there all the time. So. Oh, yeah. God, yes, I watch it. I don't do research. I do remembrance.
My goodness, you watched that show.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, I did. That's why I mentioned it. Can we talk a little bit? I have a really soft spot for this film, The Wraith. Which,
yeah.
I really enjoyed that one. I love your kooky hair in it.
Yeah, Rughead. Rughead was my character, and it was based on the look, Mike Marvin, the director, as he saw this little gang of bad guys. You know, he had one guy drinking transmission fluid. And the other guy was drinking transmission fluid too. But I was the smart guy, but I was supposed to look like the guy from Eraserhead. So worked on it. Wonderful memories of working on The Wraith. Became friends with Charlie Sheen, and Charlie is such a sweet dude. He's a minch. He's a good guy. I know there's some of the headlines and probably some of the behavior isn't something that's, you know, good housekeeping, seal of approval, but he's a really good dude. And I became friends with him and Nick Cassavetes and all those guys. Randy Quaid. I've worked with Randy a couple of times. But working on The Wraith was a blast. The only negative, and this is one that I'm sure a lot of you guys, you know, there are certain things in history that happen and you go, I remember where I was when. Well, when the Challenger exploded, I was in Tucson, Arizona. I had a day off on The Wraith, and I was sitting in my hotel room, and I saw it on television, and it stunned me. I was always a huge fan of the space program. I always followed it, and, you know, I've always thought that, well, I never really wanted to be an astronaut. I was smarter than that. I mean, to get on top of a rocket with, you know, thousands and thousands of gallons of fuel, and they light the candle and they send you up. No thanks. But it is the space program was always something that's meant a lot to me. And but being there in Tucson, Arizona, is something that I'll never forget. When, you know, I called my brother actually. Did you see what happened? This is way before cell phones. Had to get on the hotel room, the phone and call and
Dial 1 for an outside line.
yeah. So anyway, The Wraith, it was a great experience, and listen, the movie holds up for me. There are things that I've worked on back in the 80s and stuff when you see that it's dated, and the Wraith is dated to a degree, but it's got great music. It's got great action stuff. The car action is really good, and I get a kick out of remembering The Wraith.
It's a comic book movie not based on an actual comic. That's what I've always described it as.
Yeah.
Because it's got that same energy.
With very little CG. I mean, I guess there was a little CG in that movie, but not like there is now. I mean, now you can CG characters. All they did was CG, the sky and stuff like that, and they CG'd the Wraith car kind of coming to Earth and coming alive. And one thing for the handful of Wraith fans, because it's amazing, that movie did affect a lot of people. That Wraith car, it was actually a prototype car that was built by the Dodge Company, or Chrysler. And there was a special car. They wouldn't let us touch it. They did have it, but it was like I don't know whether they do this now, but when they go off and film car commercials, when they have a new car, they keep it covered. So when they only pull the cover off when they're getting ready to shoot the commercial. Well, that's the way it was with this Wraith car. They thought somebody was going to steal the design. They did have a Wraith car, but it was a kit car. It was a Volkswagen with a Wraith body on it. That's how they were able to create the Wraith car.
Awesome. Very awesome. And just one other thing I'd just love to touch on. I really love when you popped up in The Dentist 2. And I really liked that character. And I really liked the way you played that because the character was grating, but he didn't mean to be. Yeah. He was just one of those people you meet and you're stuck in an elevator with or something. Nice day, isn't it? Another way, too. And
yeah. I'm not anti-narcotic, Doc. Corbin Burnson, who played the dentist. And Corbin, what a great acting partner. I mean, it was delicious to act with Corbin. And also Brian Usna, who I've known Brian for a long, long time. And, sometimes it's years and years between seeing each other, but we have this history together. It's always a reunion when we come and hang out. And Brian was the director. He asked me, if I'd be in his movie, and I said, sure. And he told me that I'd do a scene with Corbin Burnson. I'd play a guy that goes into the dentist's office and doesn't come out. And it's a fun character. Did it in one day. Corbin and I had a blast. And, I love watching that scene. Every once in a while, I have an opportunity to see that scene. And I think it's pretty cool.
No, I think it really plays out really well.
Thanks.
It gave you an opportunity to do stuff you don't get a chance to.
Well, yeah, and here's the thing. Listen, I'm an actor, and I work for the director. It's something that I've known all of my life. I mean, ultimately, I have to appeal to the fans, but the director he's the chief, He's the guy running the thing. And, I will always go up to the director and go, is this what you want? Am I doing, you want me to be meaner, or you want me to be, what do you want me to be? Well, I've done that with Brian, and I'm sure, I don't remember exactly, but because I worked with Brian on numerous projects. But I remember one time I went up to Brian, I go, Brian, what do you think? You want me to, how would you like me to do it? And he goes, you're the actor. You're a better actor than I am. Why don't you just do what you do? So anyway, that was, I will always come up to the director and say, is this what you're looking for? And I hope he gives me a straight answer. But in Brian's case, it was like, I don't know how to act. You're the one that does it. So anyway, I don't think I got a lot of notes, and it was a good, a scene like that probably took 6 hours to shoot. You got to realize, like my scene in Star Trek was probably a 4 or 5 hour scene. I worked for 3 days on The Water Boy. I'm in that movie a lot, but they jammed it all into 3 days' work. A lot of times when you work on a movie, you can leave an impression and you've only been employed for 1 day. And as a character actor, you got to come in firing your gun. You got to come in you know, and do your best work. And that's one thing. Listen, and this may be a fault of mine, but I'm just going to be fair, be honest. On a big studio movie, my mind, I will tend to play it safe. I will tend to say, boy, they're hiring me, and it's a big movie, and I'm going to just throw fastballs down the middle. I always make baseball analogies. You know, listen, they've hired me. I don't want to screw up. I'm just going to throw fastballs. Just keep it low, maybe on the corner, but I'm just going to throw fastballs. On these small little independents, like The Dentist 2, these little tiny kind of independent movies, I will end up knowing, you know, I'm going to throw more junk. I'm going to try to hit some sliders. I'm going to try to catch some sliders on the outside corner. I'm going to throw my fork ball, you know. I'm going to challenge a guy. If they're expecting fastball, I'm going to throw a changeup. And it's just something, you know, I always want to sort of satisfy the director and satisfy the material, but I'm a little more comfortable on a small little indie being a little trickier. That's all.
Out of all this, what's been the best thing to come out of being a part of all this?
I'm sorry, all of what?
All of this whole wonderful career of yours. What's been the best thing?
Oh, first of all, being an actor has allowed me to live a life that I find acceptable. I've been able to do interesting things, interesting travels, meeting and working with a lot of interesting people. There are downsides to acting. For a long time in my career, the insecurity of not knowing where your next job was coming from kind of ate at me a little bit. But I don't know. When I hit about 50, I did the math and I figured out, well, I must be doing something right. People are hiring me. So I'm going to keep doing it. I enjoy it. I enjoy the connection with fans. I do enjoy that connection. I like coming to these conventions. I like meeting people. And especially as I get older, to realize the personal connection that people have with me is something that I find, satisfying and really cool. And like now, I travel with my wife and often with our daughter. You know, Kat and Rafi are a huge part of my life. They are my life. I'm the dad. I'm the husband. And, traveling with Kat to these shows, we make a dynamic duo, and it's fun, and it's a different experience. You got to realize it's like the Howard family West. We're like a little circus that moves around. We go into a town and we meet people and we not that we have relationships with people necessarily, but yeah, we do meet people and we do strike up relationships. You guys are all wonderful people, and I appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for indulging my capricious curiosity. I'm going to go on up and take some questions, and whoever asks the first one, we'll get 2 pieces of candy. That's how I bribe people. All right.
Can I run over there and grab a piece of candy?
You help yourself, sir. Help yourself. All right, I'll take my friend over here, and then we'll go over there. So, hey, what's your name?
Paul.
Paul, what you got, Paul?
All right. Mr. Howard.
Excuse me just a second. I'm getting candy. Okay, this is...
They're Sour Patch Twists, so they're sweet and sour.
Okay. Mr. Howard, it's well known you and your brother have a special bond, and he cast you in cameos in his films. I have to ask, which of those cameos was your favorite, and what was your most memorable experience as far as an acting role in one of your brother's directed films?
Well, listen, I love my brother, and he trusts me. You know, he knows me and he trusts me, and he'll always find something that he thinks I'm good at. And listen, we always aren't on the same page. There's been plenty of times where I've read the script and I thought I might be right for this part, but no, he kind of thinks I'd be right for that part. And there's that momentary kind of, thing of, man, what do you mean? I want to do this part. No, he's the chief, the director. He's the chief. But as far as roles, I've loved all of them, but Apollo 13 was a special experience. First of all, I did love the space program. I had a Saturn V model rocket in my room. I know right where I was when, Neil Armstrong walked on the moon. Getting to be a part of the space program in a show business way, getting to play like I was a mission controller, getting to experience that for a couple of months was really cool. We had technical advisors that were the real deal. We had technical advisors that drove on the moon. Dave Scott was one of our technical advisors. He was on the set every day. He was the first man to drive a vehicle on the moon. Jerry Griffin, who was a flight director on several Apollo missions, he was there all the time. Jerry Bostic was a technical advisor. So we were right. We had, I became good friends with the guy I played in the movie, Cy Liebergott. What a wonderful dude, and he gave me some great stuff. I'll give you one little thing about Cy. When I had the opportunity to get in touch with him and talk with him about what it was like, we were all really encouraged to do our research. And Cy had this wonderful conversation first off, and he really put it in perspective. He said that he couldn't wait for his shift to be over because he was sitting at console when the oxygen tank blew up. And it was his job to monitor the environment and the energy of the command module, service module, It was his job. And when the explosion happened, and friggin' he walked me through exactly what happened, and he was no hero. He could not wait to turn his console over to the next team. There were 4 teams. There was 4 ECOMs, because they would work 6-hour shifts and then either go to the back room or go home. And it just reminded me that they weren't cowboys and they weren't heroes. They were men. And sorry, at that time, they were men. There were no women that worked at Mission Control back in the 70s. And there also, almost everybody was a cigarette smoker, which, playing those characters. And Ed Harris and I had this experience of friggin' telling ourselves, man, this was bad. And then, of course, when we were hooked on cigarettes, we'd immediately say it was bad, and then we'd light one up, God, I'm grateful that I managed to kick that habit. But the thing with Cy, it taught me, just because a role might seem like it's a heroic role, it doesn't mean that the person who's there does necessarily feel like a hero. He may end up doing heroic things, but it doesn't mean that he feels like a hero. So anyway, that's a long-winded answer.
A good one. I'd just like to apologize to the IRS. I'll be late filing taxes.
Yeah. By the way, that was an improv. I mean, listen, I don't throw my shoulder out too often, patting myself on the back, but when that was not in the script, and when Kevin Bacon, it was in the script that Kevin Bacon said, in the rush of getting up to speed and replacing Ken Mattingly and going to the moon, he forgot to turn in his tax return. And he mentioned that on one of the television programs from space. So as they were doing coverage of us at Mission Control, I just threw that out there. Like, I think they're going to let you go. No, they're going to get him. Which is not true. If there's any IRS agents in the audience, I love you guys. If anybody is a Minch, it's an IRS guy.
Hey, what's your name?
I'm Lisa. I recently saw you on The Bold and Beautiful. How was that? Because I know you play so many different things, and it was kind of cool seeing you on a soap opera.
Well, thank you. Yes, Bold and the Beautiful. Homeless Tom. I got a call. They wanted to use me for 2 episodes to play this homeless guy. I thought, great. My wife and I, Kat, and I know Sean Kanan, who's a regular. He plays Deacon on Bold and the Beautiful. And he was sort of responsible for getting me in front of the producer, and the producer, when the opportunity came up, they needed to find a guy to play a homeless guy. And at the time, my beard was really scraggly, and my hair was all messed up. And it's like, what, I look like a homeless guy? But I guess I did. So I had no idea it was going to be 13 episodes. They did not tell me there was going to be this arc that had me being a rock and roller in another lifetime. I mean, I just thought I was going to do 2 episodes, and I was going to give some information to Deacon and the other actor. There were 2 guys that I had my first scene with, and I thought that was it. And then I got a call saying they want to use me for 3 more episodes. I go, well, that's great. And the only challenge, first of all, there is no challenge that's too big in the business. I will do the best I can. I mean, I'm not much of a dancer, and there's some things now with my 2 artificial hips that I can't really do like I used to be able to do. I will give it my best. But learning the dialogue, because finally they made Tom have a lot of dialogue. By the end, it was friggin' a lot of dialogue. And you know, soap operas are known for that. And that's a challenge. Learning dialogue and trying to make it organic, getting into that soap opera rhythm. Right away, I knew as an actor, once I realized I was just going to do more than this one scene and they were going to bring me back for more stuff, I was watching the way the other actors were handling it. And I had a conversation with Sean about well, how do you do it? What do you do? And yeah, I created a few little cheat sheets and cheater cards, and when I have to absorb a lot of dialogue in my head, I have a specific way of operating. I will at home quietly get to a place and write my dialogue down. Just literally, write the dialogue down. And I learned this somewhere. There is something about writing down, your brain will tend to remember something more. And then you have to do more than just remember. You have to then place a motive and an intention, and well, why is he saying this? What's he doing? And of course, it's going so fast, sometimes they'll shoot 30 pages a day, 35 pages a day. And, everybody's got to do it, so you queue up and do it, and I'm really glad I had that experience of working on Bold and the Beautiful, so thanks.
Great question. Thank you. Thank you. All right, we'll take this. Hey, what's your name?
My name's Scott.
Hey, Scott.
I read on the internet that for Ice Cream Man that they originally wanted to make it PG-13. I was wondering if you heard anything about that on set, and do you think it would have worked as a PG-13 film?
No. You can't grind up a dog and put him in the ice cream and make it PG-13. No, listen, by the time I got involved in it, because I auditioned for that role, Norman Epstein, the director of Ice Cream Man, auditioned me. I got a call from my agent saying there's this little independent movie. It would be the lead. They don't have a lot of money, but you'd be the lead, and why don't you go on the audition? And so I went on the audition, and he liked me. They actually had to pay off a guy. They had hired a guy to play the Ice Cream Man, and when Norman saw me, he realized we can get him, and so they hired me to be the Ice Cream Man. And what I saw was an R-rated movie with kids, and it wasn't the kind of R-rated movie with a lot of sex or anything like that. It was a kids' horror movie, And this is going to lead me to another point. Myself and Norman Epstein and my wife, Kat Howard, are producing another Ice Cream Man. It is not a sequel. It's another movie. The only similarities is back in 1994, I played an Ice Cream Man. And in 2025, I'm playing another Ice Cream Man. And this guy is older and he's tired. And we're gonna find out what it takes to make a guy start putting body parts in ice cream.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're really excited about it. I wish I could publicly explain some of our casting choices and various things like that. But it's going to be pretty exciting, and we're anxious to get started on it. And it's going to be fun-filled. I'm going to be directing the movie too. So
Ooh,
a wonderful opportunity for me as a director.
cool. So that's on the project. We're just about time. So anything else on the horizon you're allowed to share with us?
No, just this Ice Cream Man. Hey, hang on a second, guys. I'm gonna let you guys in on something here. My wife decided to kind of style something. She came up with this, and this says this guy really, really perfectly. He's a guy that, on page 1 of this script, he would never think about putting body parts in an ice cream. He's not a monster. He's just an old, tired ice cream man that has had kids, neighborhood Karens, competition from other vendors out there. They've just and also circumstance and coincidence. Things have beaten on this guy to the point where he just says, "F it." And you will know very shortly what it takes have a guy put body parts in ice cream.
Nightmare Weekend 2024. This was Clint Howard, and that was our time. But before we go, would you like to take a picture with our audience?
Yes,
All
that
right.
would be great.
We will invite everybody to come towards the stage. Not on the stage. Towards the stage, please. Want to take a picture of our amazing guest and all of you.